Time for our PIX panel, and joining us this morning, PIX 11's political team back. Ayana and Henry Rosoff, right after some much-deserved time off. Julia Marsh from the New York Post. So good to see all three of you. So there was a lot of ground covered this morning with the Department of Corrections Commissioner. He was very forthcoming, very honest about the challenges, pretty much saying that the inmates are running the jail system. So let's go down the line here. What are his options to fix this and fix it now?
That's a tough question, Dan, because clearly the jail needs more staffers, right? They're working triple shifts. And how do you recruit staffers when everyone's reading and hearing on the news that Rikers Island is out of control? It's a tough situation. People may not want to go into and apply for the job. So they're really going to have to get out there throughout the city and convince New Yorkers that, hey, this is a good job option. You should apply because ultimately they need more people. There was some private security brought in to patrol the perimeter of Rikers Island, but that's not going to solve some of the issues that are happening within the jail.
So a timeline, like how much time do they even have to make these kind of changes, Henry?
Very little, considering the election and a new mayor coming in with different priorities and different ways of handling it. But one thing that's not going to change is the union, the Correction Officers Union, COBA, which the Blasio administration has painted as obstructionists, accused of having officers call out sick en masse. Worth noting that COBA says that's completely not true. But that union is going to exist. They have deep reservations about everything that's going on, and the next mayor is going to have to engage with them more constructively than Mayor de Blasio did, because it's one of the worst relationships the city has with any union.
Julia, I guess when you look at it, right, you might say, well, why is anybody or the city going to invest any kind of money when they know it's going to close down?
And some people accuse Mayor de Blasio of purposefully kind of neglecting the situation, continuing to force the closure. But the reality is that you have thousands of people currently incarcerated there. And I think to Henry's point, you've had both mayoral candidates Curtis Sliwa and Eric Adams extend an olive branch to the union. And it sounds like hopefully there'll be a more constructive relationship there next year.
Yeah, we shall see. It seems like the big issue, I don't know if any of you agree here, is staffing. You bring the staff back, and maybe the safety comes back with it.
Absolutely. But again, people have to feel safe to go in and work in that environment.
Which is the number one problem that they have been saying is we're not calling out sick, we just don't feel safe going to work. Yeah. Let's talk about the elections right now. Big day, two weeks away. Early voting begins this coming Saturday, starting with the mayor's race. Now, I do want to play a quick soundbite and then get your reaction to it.
A number of men and women from throughout the city who have contacted us, who have said that they're just not on board with their candidate, Eric Adams.
If he wants to participate in the circus, that's fine. I'm just not buying the tickets.
So there has been some, those were some jabs that were thrown, as you would expect in the final weeks, right? But Ayana, you followed the mayor's race this week. Any chance that we'll see Eric Adams more? He's been seemingly keeping a very low profile. Yeah,
Julia and I were just talking about this moments ago before coming out here. I do think we will begin to see Eric Adams a little bit more, but in very controlled situations. From what I'm hearing from sources, Adams knows that he's likely going to win this race, and he's really focusing his time on, building coalitions, fundraising, building bridges away from the cameras, and it also gives him an opportunity to kind of not step into it. If the more he exposes himself, the more he may get in a little bit of trouble, and he's trying to certainly avoid that. Yeah, going into election day.
It's almost like, Julia, why do it when you know you're going to win? He has to do the debates, right? He's mandated to do those two debates that are coming up, but other than that.
You had a former mayoral candidate, Freddie Ferrer, quoted in the Times in a story about this, and he's like, he's doing what he should be doing. Why put yourself out there, give yourself a chance to stumble when you're likely going to be the next mayor, and you, as Ayana said, can use this time to build out your team, build relationships. And he's portrayed Curtis as a clown and says he's not going to get involved in those antics.
I mean, I got a flyer from Eric Adams at my house, which is the most contact a lot of journalists have had with him lately, and it was very generic. It was safer streets, and we're going to clean up. He's not putting himself out there.
Yeah, and this is all very frustrating for us as reporters, Dan, because there's so many pressing issues that we want to know. There's going to be a new mayor in just a few months. How would this new mayor approach these different situations, from gifted and talented to Rikers? And it's been tough to pin him down on that. So it's been frustrating.
Another big race was the race for governor over in New Jersey, right? We saw the second and final debate between Chitterelli and Phil Murphy. It seemed like the audience was the most lively here, booing and cheering the whole way through. Is this race anywhere close?
It's very tough to tell. I mean, New Jersey voters, as we well know, Chris Christie era is only 3.5 years ago, approximately. You have a tendency to elect new Republican governors. This is a tough needle for Chitterelli to thread, as we heard Professor Casino say in my story 10 minutes ago. I mean, he's really trying to appeal to a Trump base. There's 35–40% Trump base in New Jersey. We know that from a recent election, but also pull in enough moderates in this polarized environment. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, and it seems that Phil. By the way, a Democrat has not won re-election in New Jersey 40 years or so. So this would be the first time that it's happened in quite some time. But your overall thoughts here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very close and interesting race to watch. I hope there's a little bit more polling that perhaps comes out so that we can get a better gauge of where things stand with New Jersey voters. But it's a unique and diverse state, and so it'll be interesting to see.
Yes, it is a week in New Jersey politics is a year.
And being looked at as a national gauge for certain policies, which may be the most interesting thing to come out of this, frankly.
Look at that. New Jersey's a trailblazer. Everybody likes to, talk negatively of New Jersey. Julia, another debate this week over whether to move the Thomas Jefferson statue out of City Hall. You had some reporting on this week. Is it something that both Sliwa and Adams are in favor of? What's the positions here?
No, Sliwa wants to keep the statue at City Hall, said, in fact, if it was moved, he would bring it back. Eric Adams told me in a statement last night that he wants to have a public review process, which originally wasn't so transparent. He thinks that should happen, but ultimately he does agree that Jefferson is not the right person to be in the council chambers, and he wants someone, he said, more representative of modern New Yorkers.
Yeah, I mean, Ayana, you get the last word here. You did some reporting yesterday, but he's been there since 1830s.
Yeah, and look, this is a complicated issue. Thomas Jefferson was a founding father, but he was also a slaveholder, and so we have to, in this day and age, look back and recognize and say, hey, there are some things that might have been commonplace at the time, but is that still what we want to uplift at this moment? And so that's what the conversation is going to focus on.
All right, it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks leading up to November 2nd. I'm sure we'll be talking to you much. Ayana, Henry, Julia, thank you for being here.